Good morning, everybody. Another episode of the Keep Going podcast, Athletes Shining a Light on Mental Health. I am outside of the Best Western out here in St. Charles, Illinois. David Mitchell, where we at?
How are we doing? I'm coming out of Colorado this week. Again, beautiful state, got some sunshine in the fall. Fall's here, leaves are changing. What's going on? What's going on with you?
Everything's good. Everything's good. How many pumpkin patches so far, Dave? A couple or what?
No pumpkin patches so far. Not
Okay,
yet.
well, keep me posted. Darin, how many pumpkin patches so far for you? Any?
Thankfully none as of this moment, but I know by the end of the month that number will change.
I know we're smart men. We're dumb, but we're not idiots in that regard. We have significant others that will make us go to those pumpkin patches. But
Yeah.
in all seriousness, Darin Ford is here. I'm fired up. Not only is this guy great looking, but a great basketball mind. Can't wait to pick your brain today, Darin. So before we go into anything, tell me about what you've been doing this week for your mental health.
I think a big thing, because obviously, and I'm somebody who um is admittedly obsessed with basketball, and having stepped back into the head coaching role, there's a lot that falls on your shoulders. There's a lot that comes with that. And so I constantly am fighting, holding all that on my shoulders, right?
Right.
And so me personally need to continue to challenge myself to be better about it. So what I've done this week, and tried the previous several weeks, after summer kind of ended and school kind of started. I'm not a teacher, but I'm around the kids all the time, and is just trying to find moments of I don't want to call them breaks, but moments where I'm getting away. Perfect example, took that to the extreme. My wife and I, we jumped in the car. We drove out here to Niagara Falls. We got soaked on the Maid of the Mist. And
Love that.
of course, she wanted to go stand in the front left or the front right, which is like the part that you get absolutely drenched. And,
Yep.
if you took a panorama of the boat, you would see all these people, oh, excited. Here I am holding her poncho down over her purse so that her purse doesn't get ruined with our phones in it. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. So, I think just finding moments of getting away is kind of for that break, if you will. I don't know if that's the right word, but just to give yourself a chance to kind of recalibrate and be ready for the long hauls ahead, the challenges ahead.
I love that. I think that's a great reminder for our listeners that Darin is one of the busiest people I know. Like Darin is coaching. Darin is a full-time employee at NCSA. He's a great husband, great family man, doing a bunch of stuff, but taking time for you and your wife and putting an importance on that, man. Kudos to you, man, because that's inspiring for people that don't do that kind of stuff. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that's so important. Just to get away from your sport as a coach as well, just to do
Mhm.
something outside of it. Clears your mind a little bit, just gets you thinking on there's other things outside of your sport in this
Yeah.
world. So I
Yeah.
think that's important for sure to just do something else other than your sport.
Completely agree. It can be a big part of our life. It could be what puts food on our table, what keeps us intrigued to keep learning, but it can't be our identity. And I think that's really big. Darin, talk about basketball for you, man. I know you've been a guy that's been a sport guy since you probably could walk. So talk about basketball, talk about your upbringing, man.
So, for me, basketball starts, in all honesty, probably, I don't know, 40 something, 50 some years ago. Uh, my grandpa was just happened to end up being a really good basketball player. And then after he was a really good basketball player, he became a really good basketball coach. He was a college and high school coach for, about 40 years altogether in the state of Ohio. And that inspired my dad to go be a good player, inspired my uncle to go be a good player. Then they picked up coaching. I had another family member, a great uncle that was in coaching too. So then when the baton came to me, I didn't pick up the good player one. I was a terrible player. I was the worst player you've ever seen. I was slow. Could only pass, and it's the only thing I was good at. Couldn't, wasn't guarding anybody. And I'm all of 5'7". So, Didn't have the makings of a great varsity athlete, but knew I wanted to coach. Was around the game exactly what you said. Since before I could walk, and I was born at a time where my parents were only sophomores in college, so I was literally around for my dad's entire coaching career.
Right.
He played his junior and senior year. I don't remember those, at me 1 and 2. But there's glimpses of his professional career. He played for 1 year in England. We moved over there. Like I remember a glimpse or two here. Like nothing impressive, but like I remember a glimpse or two here. But then, and of course, like maybe I could false memory imagine it, but like outside of that, what I remember is his coaching career and just watching
Yeah.
his, career, his goals, his day to day, and I just fell in love with it at such a young age, and it's all I wanted to do growing up. Like, kids grow up like I'm gonna play in the NBA, I'm gonna do this, and I'm like, I'm gonna coach. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to do. So that's what it's always been about for me with the basketball stuff. And I don't take it for granted. I really, really enjoy it, and I'm constantly, wanting to get better. I think we all have our own challenges in our way of getting better, but I love it. I enjoy it. And to speak on what you said a few minutes ago, just like, yeah, my full-time job is with NCSA, and I'm not a teacher. I don't talk about chemistry during the day, or I don't talk about
Right.
biology or things that I can't even spell. I all I do is basketball. So it's a labor of love. It's 24/7. I absolutely love it.
I love that answer. And I got to ask you this because this is a mental health podcast, and I'll pivot over to Dave here. But while you're coming up, man, 5'7", just a little bit below par basketball player, right? Like you
We're
had to have
double bogey basketball player.
double bogey basketball player. Fair enough. You had to have people doubt you along the way, correct?
So I would take that a step further. He um so obviously, I shared, growing up, my dad's coaching career. Well, my dad was a phenomenal player, right? And I mean, I don't go around, toting this, and here I am about to say it, but like he scored more points in high school than LeBron did. Like, he's,
Right.
he scored 1,700 some points in college. He was an excellent player. And so at one point in my childhood, we moved back to where we're all from, which is Southeast Ohio. My dad took the head coaching job at Muskingum University. And like, of course, 10-year-old, and I battled a lot of ego
Right.
issues when I was young, like a ton. Like, I'm the man, that was back when I thought I was a good player. See, that's the funny part. And so we moved back home, to Cambridge, Ohio, New Concord, Ohio, whatever you want to call it. And ultimately, people, I would hear them all the time. Hey, that's Gino's boy. Hey, that's Gene's grandson. Like, oh, he's a forward, whatever, da da da. And in Southeast Ohio, people know who we are. And that went to my head. And it went to my head really quickly. And
Right.
instead of being humble about it and normal about it, 10-year-old me, 11-year-old me, 12-year-old me picked up some bad habits in terms of just being really full of myself. Again, like I said, it was before I figured out I was a really bad player. And thought, um yeah, I had something to prove. In fact, there was a time on a fourth grade playground where a teacher monitor, I don't know what they're called, came over and tried to correct, because I think me and a couple other kids were arguing about a foul and 2-on-2 at recess, and she came over and was like trying to, like break it up or whatever. And I like stopped her. I was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. Hey, my dad scored more points in high school than LeBron James. I got this. I know what's going on.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So like I felt constantly like I had to prove that. I had to constantly prove that, the measuring stick, that like, I'm as smart, or I know the game or whatever. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
and that might have been, like, looking back, that might have been the shards of knowing I wasn't a good player, like trying to hold on to it for dear life.
Right, right.
But I I'm a lot of things. One of the things that I do feel really confident about in my today self is I feel like I'm self-aware, and I'm very self-aware of those past experiences. Just being like, just kind of a turd, like, that's it's kind of like a good way to put it. And being able to look back and try to self-correct and self-improve and then not dwell on it is what I think it helps me now in the future. So that was a long-winded answer. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. So I'm not a guy that does a lot of question B's to A questions. Like I don't really do that much. I'm glad I did that there because that was fantastic, man. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, that was a great response. Transitioning into being a coach, how do you check in on yourself and your players mentally?
That's a great question. So I think for the kids, it starts with me just having a really good one-on-one relationship with them, and letting them know right away that I'm invested and I'm interested in them, and as a kid first, and then athlete player for us second. Because at the end of the day, I think I think any 15, 16, 17-year-old kid will tell you this, like if they don't feel like the coach, I don't, you could sub in any term, but like rocks with them would maybe be a good one.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
if they don't feel like that, they're not going to want to play for you. They're not going to want to,
Right.
and then in the moments where maybe you do try to get out of that shell and you do try to bridge a relationship, they're probably going to be guarded. They're probably not going to want to do that because, you've set a standard early on that you're not going to be the open guy. You're not going to ask them about, hey, what do your parents do? Or they're not going to ask you about, hey, how's class going? Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's I think if you don't have that relationship established to be able to talk to them, you're missing the ball, because that's the whole point of this thing is building relationships, and then hopefully the winning comes, and then they got all these experiences and all these memories, right? But it starts with relationships. It starts with trust. And in this most recent, opportunity, with me taking this head coaching job at Nordonia High School, we had like a quote unquote meet the coach night, whatever, the first night or the first, day I had the job. And we probably had like 15, 16, 17 of the kids between the high school group, there, a couple other filtered in later on when the parents came in. And they asked me to do like a slideshow presentation, and at the beginning there was on one slide, the very first slide said 1%, and I just said remember that for later, and then went through all my stuff, style of play, expectations off the court, what you're getting from me, all those things. And at the end I brought that back, the last slide, that slide again, it just said 1% trust in progress. I said I know by standing up here for 35 minutes I haven't won you guys over, right? I haven't, you're not going home like, oh, I can't wait to play for that guy. You know what I mean? Like maybe if Greg Popovich or Mike Krzyzewski stood in front of him, they'd be like, yeah, let's go.
Fair.
I
Fair
can't,
enough.
yeah, I can't wait to play for that guy. But like, I'm Darin Ford. They don't know me. And, they found me on Instagram 20 minutes before I walked through the door. So like, at the end of the day, what I think we won in that meeting that day was just, I put up there, trust and progress. It's going to take time for you guys to trust me. It's going to take time for us to make progress towards our goals in building this thing. And I think that has really shined through, because I ask them, hey, how you doing? You know what I mean? Like, and it doesn't have to be that varsity starting 5 or that varsity 10 or that varsity 15 you might think you might have. I'm talking to all the kids. So I think that helps. So that would be on the kids front. On the me front, I would say two things, and they're not 1A, and they're not 1 and 1A or 1 and 1B, whatever, 1 and 2. In no particular order. I would say it starts with my physical health.
Yeah.
Pat would know that back in January, I had without getting too long-winded with it, like a real life health scare, in terms of basically had a heart attack, but not in the way you think a heart attack typically is, oh, that guy eats a lot of bacon, right? Like not really. I probably did eat too much bacon, but like not in that sense. It was uncovered that I have a genetic heart condition that we didn't know about. And athletes would be able to relate to it. It's what Hank Gathers died from. Like
Yes.
ESPN 30 for 30. That's the condition. So
Yes.
and people that love One Tree Hill, it's what the main character Lucas had.
You already know it, baby.
Yeah.
Shout out Lucas Scott, baby. Shout out Lucas Scott. Got to shout
Yeah,
him out. Go ahead.
exactly. Lucas Scott, Hank Gathers, both good basketball players. Me, not so much. So,
Yes. Lucas had a
that,
burner. People forget that. People forget that. Go ahead.
yeah. So, I would say for me, like I said, it's twofold. So the one part would be in no order, right? It would be the keeping my physical health at a premium importance. Because that's something in my past coaching career, my past like have not valued. And not that I did anything dumb or like, I just really liked starches and meats and whatever. Like, you know what I mean? Like I don't, I just have never I've just never prioritized it to the level that I needed to because of this condition, right? Didn't know about it.
Mhm.
This kind of came out of nowhere. And then the other half of it, and again, this is, I will say this is at the forefront, actually. I will give this the number one, is having somebody that can calibrate you and
Yeah.
keep you grounded. And so anybody who's got a significant other knows exactly where I'm going. My wife is central to my everyday mental health. It's funny, like every once in a while I'll be scrolling on Instagram or Facebook Reels or whatever, and I'm finding these videos or reels where it's like, you don't want to have to do this to depend on, to need external blah blah blah, like all these buzzwords. And I'm like, no, literally, like I rely on my wife for a lot of stuff. So,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think she's central to my journey, and I would hope that I'm central to her journey in that, like, the mental health side, you can do it together. And I think part of it too, as a coach and as somebody who wants to do better each day, you got to have someone that calibrates you, but also makes you want to be better. And that's what I
Right.
think at the center of it all. That's what she is. And so that would probably, again, long-winded answer. I'm sorry, guys, but
No, no,
would
no
wrap
apologies,
it
man.
up.
This is your story, man. There's a reason why it doesn't say Pat O'Malley and David Mitchell on this episode. Like we've already had our episode. We've already spilled our guts out to each other, right?
Yeah.
Dave, I love when you ask that question because I always kind of tangent off of it. First thing, just to unlayer this, when you believe in your players, they buy in.
Yep.
They trust it. They trust that 1% better. I always say to my athletes, you can't eat the whole pizza in one bite. We talk about it every
Nope.
week. Like getting
Yep.
1% better and working on it. And I love that you started your presentation with that. Second thing, Terry Bano was my high school coach. And I think about it from a high school perspective at Elk Grove. And I remember breaking my hand as a senior in high school and sitting down in the winter next to him as he looks at me and goes, I want to give you the keys to the car, but I can't right now. Who should we play at shortstop until you're back? And I remember being like, dude, I'm 18 years old, but you love and believe in me enough to say, like, this is not your replacement, but this is someone that could help us. What's your opinion on this? That belief, man, I'll never forget that as a player. So like,
Yeah.
things like that. And
Moves
lastly, and I'll keep it
mountains
game,
for you.
dude, it changed my entire baseball career.
Yeah.
It led me to being a college coach. It led me to shout out Terry Bana, man, just a great dude. But like, I'm at the center of this episode, but like that made me believe in myself. And I think that's so powerful. And then your wife, man, I have it with my fiance now. I was doing stuff early on in the relationship. She sat me down the curb and said, Pat, if you want me, you better change this, this, and this. And once again, changed my entire life. Go ahead, Dave.
Yeah, no doubt. The three important parts you hit on, it was creating a good environment to play in for your players, to believe in themselves and have a good relationship to them. Because without trust, like you said, there's nothing there. And you can't win by yourself. You need a good environment. You need a good team that works all together toward one goal, for sure. And I love how you create that environment. And number two, the physical part of it. I know that's huge for me in my routine every single day. Do something physically for your mental health can have a huge impact on anyone. And yeah, thirdly, having just someone to talk to. If it's not
Yes, yes.
your wife, fiance, girlfriend, just reach out and have a comfortable conversation with someone that you may be going through, because it's hard to do it alone.
One
If we
thousand.
got kids, yeah, go ahead, Darin. If we got kids on right now, I'm gonna let them take 2 seconds to mute. Darin, with everything going on, man, you're a bad motherfucker. Go ahead. Go ahead, D.
I appreciate it, man. You as well. You know, it's all love. You know, to piggyback off what you said a second ago, Pat. Like I had that conversation too. I got sat down on the curb and told real plainly, "Hey, if you don't do this or you don't do that,
Oh yeah.
it's
Oh
not going to
yeah.
go the way you go." I had to learn that really quick, and that was a huge hurdle for me, but it was awesome. It
We
was the
call
best thing
we
I
call
ever
that
had.
we call that growth. We call that growth in our world, Darin. We call that growth.
Exactly. You got to.
I love it, man. Well, let's do this, man. I love you, man. I think just how you operate and how you go about your business. If we don't bring that up, you can't even tell you've had some crazy stuff going on over the last 6 months. And I just commend you for your positivity. I love the way you are with your athletes. I love the way you are with our families at NCSA. I want to tell you that, but it
I
hasn't always
appreciate
been this way, man. It hasn't always been this way. Tell me your keep going moment. Someone that should have broke you down and you got through, and now you're on the podcast with us.
it. I would say 1000% that keep going moment was probably my decision. And you know, I just echoed it. I just talked about it, like having that sit down moment with that significant other, right? Where, you know, if
Yeah.
we don't make these changes, this is not going to go how you think it's going to go. Because again, you know, I think at a certain point, you know, as men, you know, as someone, you know, as someone who's in athletics, right, we're all filled with ego to some degree. And I think that breakdown moment of, you know, my now wife. So it worked out, right? It totally worked
Hey,
out.
congrats on that, brother. It worked
Yeah.
out.
Yeah. Right. So we got the check mark. We got the W. We're in the win column. But you know, if conversations that we had in November of 2021 don't go the way they did, I don't think I make changes. And I don't
Yeah.
think I rally behind, you know, trying to get better. I really don't. And you know, I just a lot of it was filled by ego. A lot of it was filled by just, you know, insecurities and just and I think um when I look at you know, the importance of growth and change in my life over the last 3-ish years, you know, I would say that I owe all that to her. And you know, just trying to, because again, you know, as a coach, right? And I grew up the son of a coach. So I was constantly hearing about trying to do something bigger than yourself and, you know, trying to, do something special, right? And
Yeah, man. Pave your own way. Yeah, I get it. Yeah.
right. And so when I was a coach, right, and I got my first varsity high school job when I was 22 years old, head coaching job, and like I shouldn't have been in that position because like mentally I wasn't prepared for the responsibility that comes with that. Basketball wise, 100%. I'll selfishly say I was prepared for that. But like the other things that are important to have from your high school coach, I just wasn't there yet. And
Right.
and so where I'm going with this is like I think you have to find like what you said, the keep going moment. Like I would say just kind of I don't want to call it the come to Jesus conversations, but like the moments where it was like, you know, okay, now I get it. You know, I've always been saying this to players and whatever. Hey, we got to do something bigger than ourselves, or hey, we got to do this, we got to believe all this, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't living that in my own life. Just kind of waking up, doing my thing, you know, whatever I wanted to do, and it was all about me. And I think you know, then you start challenging yourself when you find something worth challenging yourself. And that was 100% my wife. So I would say there was a time period in November 2021 where into like early 2022, where really kind of I think I finally understood it and who I had to be in order to grow and be better. And I owe that to her 100%.
I did. That is an awesome answer. And man, that was good. Here's what I'm going to say though. One of the first people to congratulate me when I got engaged was Darin Ford. And I'll never forget what Darin said. This was in May of this year. He says, the best thing you'll ever do.
1,000.
And I'll never forget that. And we talk about I'm crying again. This is every week. I'm literally sitting here thinking about that and being just the love that you showed that day and the love that you have for your wife and just listeners right now. And I have a buddy, I'm not going to name him. He's struggling in that department right now. He doesn't have a significant other. He's struggling. He might be drinking a little bit too much. I'm just going to just leave it at that. And we have a conversation last weekend about what do you do in the meantime? Work on yourself and love your people that are around right now.
Yep.
I talk to my mom every morning. My brother is my best man. My other buddy Dan is my co-best man. Like everyone has people. Yep. But if you're not going and bettering yourself and establishing the relationships and loving on the people that you do have, it's not going to come as quick as you'd like. Go ahead, Dave.
No question.
You got me emotional over here. I'm not going to lie.
I love it.
Yeah. I think everybody goes through one of those moments in their life. And I think it's important to know that it might happen again. You never know. Yeah. But you just got to keep on moving forward and be in the present moment and just say, what am I going to do today? Sometimes just for myself, like just pick one thing to do out of the day for yourself, to work on yourself sometimes is what you need to do. And then the relationships and the people come into your life in a different way. I don't know if it's the universe or whatever you believe in, God, and it does get better for you. Just keep believing in yourself, keep taking it day by day, and keep going.
David, man, come on, David Mitchell. He's cooking this morning, baby.
Yeah, that was it. Yeah, no, yeah, you guys are awesome, man. Like that, yeah, 1,000%.
Thank you, D. I appreciate you, man. And here's what we'll do. I'm looking at the old Zoom meeting timer, which we are trained to do at NCSA. We're at 29:10. So you know I'm always on the 30-minute clock. Yeah. I want to go rapid fire questions. I want to get you back on the road. And if you've watched the podcast, if you listen, whatever it may be, I never ask the first question. David Mitchell's asking first.
What has been one of your favorite coaching moments?
So I was 22 years old, first varsity head coaching position. And we had a coach in the league that hadn't beat the school. I took over a winning program and hadn't beat the school in years. And good guy, nice guy. I got along with him, but a lot of people at our school just couldn't stand him, didn't like him. And they came into our home gym early in my time there, only a few games in, and they beat us. And to the kids and to the community, like I was new, I was an outsider. But to the kids in the community, the sky was falling in. And so I read the room early. And I was like, hey, listen, we're going to circle our calendar. We like stayed 500 for a while. And then we had a 6-game winning streak later in the year, which catapulted off of beating them by 23 at their place. They were 13-0 in the league. And I started talking about it that night. We're going to beat them at their place. We're going to drill them at their place. We're going to beat them. And like that moment and that feeling, that locker room after the game was insane. I will admit I jumped up onto the benches and started knocking on the lockers. In the locker room, yeah, I went nuts. But that, and then coincidentally, a couple weeks later, we drew them in the playoffs. And in New York, not everybody gets in. A state like Illinois, a state like Ohio, where everybody gets in the state tournament, so you have to qualify. And sure enough, we drew on the road at their place in the 3-6 game, and we beat them in overtime. And the exact same thing happened. I'm jumping on the bench, like the little old style PE benches in the locker room, hitting the lockers, and oh yeah, it was insane. It was awesome.
Because
I love it. And Dave, this is before your time, but this reminds me of Coach Gossett's episode. One of my buddies, he's actually the head coach at Knockout in Oklahoma, JUCO program now, and he
Yeah.
was at Rock Valley when we were there. And I remember Goss's episode. It's not what you're talking about; it's how you're showing it with your emotions, man. It's just the way
Yeah.
you talk about basketball. I know you love this, man.
Yeah. It's
It's
it's it's
amazing. It's amazing.
it's in the blood, man. It's in the blood. Didn't
I'm
translate
gonna
to playing
stay there.
success, right?
I get it. I get it. We're not going to knock you anymore on that, but I'm going to stay with kind of basketball, kind of not. So obviously, your dad right now is still coaching at Stony Brook, correct?
Oh yeah.
That's it, man. Long Island, which if you follow the podcast, I spent a lot of flights, a lot of time out in Long Island.
Yeah.
Favorite thing to do in Long Island, New York? Go.
Eat. Oh man,
Okay,
eat.
here we go.
Yeah, I would say, I mean, there I could name you 100 because obviously, I mean, the listeners don't know the common threads, Pat, that you and I have in terms
Yes.
of your Stony Brook connection. That's where I graduated from. It's where my dad coaches. That's where I,
Go
I,
Seawolves, baby. Go
yep,
Seawolves.
yep. What's a Seawolf? We still don't know.
No idea.
Yeah,
No
we still
idea.
don't know. But that, and then of course, I was in Illinois for a while. I got people that like, that actually know you from Rock Valley. But like the circling back to the eating, like, yeah, man, like not a good thing. But like Cabo Fresh,
Yep.
10 out of
Yep.
10. Like people think Chipotle is great. No, Cabo Fresh is
Let the
unbelievable.
people know. Let the
Yeah,
people know.
Cabo Fresh, Luigi's in Setauket. I think it's in Setauket.
Yep. Yep.
Pizza slices the size of your face. I mean, just
Love it.
grab a cold buffalo chicken slice. Yeah, I mean those would be like me picking those up on the way home from practice, scary hours in my car. Eating pizza, by myself.
We've all been there. We've
We've all,
all been there at 22, man. We've all been
yeah,
there at 22. Dave
exactly.
got to see it firsthand, man. Like I was grabbing gas station taquitos and
Yeah,
whatever the heck. I coached Dave at Rock Valley, obviously. Dave, I'm
yeah.
gonna let you go one more question. We'll wrap up. Go ahead, brother.
yeah, you talked about you do something physical for your mental health. What is your favorite thing physically to do? Is it running, working out, lifting, squatting? What you got? It is
So
Squattober, so you never know.
It is squat over. It is squat over. Yes.
yeah, I think I'm sitting out Squattober, but I I will say, and I need to be better about it. That's the thing. Like I want to be better about it, but the nature of Pat and I's job, like I'm constantly pacing, so I'm constantly walking all day long. Like I'm constantly on the
Me
phone
too. Me
pacing.
too.
I'm a pacer. Like it's amazing. Like you guys can't see, but I've been moving my legs under the table the whole time. 2 foot long legs. But I at the end of the day, it's walking, getting outside, going for an outdoor walk. I do occasionally go to Planet Fitness and I'll walk there. But because of my health situation in
Right.
January, for the longest time, and even still, like I'm on a restriction, so like I'm not allowed to like break out and run. Which I was never a runner beforehand and I never will be. But that's so walking has to be it. And I enjoy that. I do enjoy an outdoor walk. That's something that like my family did when we were growing up. Like we, go out for a walk. Of course, 12, 13, 14, I hated it, but I've come
Right.
to appreciate it the older I've gotten, and we'll occasionally tap my wife on the shoulder like, hey, let's go. You know what I mean? Or maybe it's, hey, it's me, early in the morning, after she goes to work, and going.
Yeah, no doubt.
I love that.
Whoever is listening to this podcast, I challenge you to go walk 30 minutes in nature, no headphones, no distractions. Just
I
do it.
love that. I love that. I was in the same thing. Me and Luke used to talk about hot girl walks all the time. A good 30-minute hot girl walk never hurt anybody. I've never felt worse after a hot girl walk. That's for sure. Love it. Love it. Love it,
Yeah,
guys. Well, hey, I'm gonna say this. I'm having a great Sunday with y'all. Like I said, I'm out here at Best Western in St. Charles, Illinois, and people are looking at me in my car right now like I'm some weirdo. I'm not some weirdo. This was a great conversation. I love you guys both. And Darin, before I wrap up, man, I want to give you your flowers moment. I want to talk about how we can do stuff to help you, man. can we support you? And if you haven't talked about something that you want to touch on, go right ahead. The floor is all yours.
I would say, we as coaches, I think the big thing that people probably miss, and I'm not somebody that, because growing up the son of a coach, I think growing up the son of a coach, I have a very unique perspective on this, and I think oftentimes, it's easy to come down on a coach, or I don't want to say kill a coach, but like, just like try to
Get on them.
coach down, and then also two, you have, especially in high school settings, kids will go home and they'll start talking, or maybe the dinner table becomes a little toxic for, like, oh, you might not be playing enough, all this and that. And it usually reverts back to, oh, the coach doesn't know what he's doing. The coach doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, the coach isn't in it. And I pride myself on not being in that category. I want everybody to go home and say, hey, you know what? This guy cares about me. They can say all they want about playing time, or hey, he's not getting me enough shots, right? Like, that's fine. Like, I'll sleep with that. But it's, these coach, like, the coach doesn't care about me. Like, it can't have that. And I pride myself on in that. And I think that I think a way to support coaches, or, someone like me in that community, is just, remind your people from the outside constantly reminding themselves that coaches are human too, right? And I'm not going to sit here with a big violin and say coaches are human, right? Or sing a song, but I think at the end of the day, I think having some appreciation for that definitely, definitely helps keep the wheels greased and everything moving forward.
That's a great sign. That's a great sign off for us today. For young coaches, maybe coaches that have been doing this for a long time, believe in your players, trust them, be that light for them. Who knows? Maybe you'll get brought up on a podcast a couple years from now. You never know.
100%.
I love it, guys. Well, you guys have a great rest of your Sunday. Darin, this has been just an actual great time. Like, I'm genuinely happy after this conversation. Dave, you want to sign us off?
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Darin, for coming on. I know you have impacted me. Like it, share this episode, get it out there. I know P's going to get it out there tonight. Thank you. Always keep going.
Keep going, baby. Love you guys.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.